All right, let's jump right into this. We're going to talk about a really powerful and honestly a pretty counterintuitive idea about money from the absolute legend, Charlie Munger. It's a way of thinking that kind of flips one of the very first rules of investing completely on its head.
So, what if I told you that the single most common piece of financial advice you've probably ever heard, to diversify your investments? What if that's not just wrong, but it's actually holding you back from ever getting truly rich? Well, according to Charlie Munger, the answer to that is a big, loud yes. Okay, so let's start with what everybody knows, right? For decades, we've all been taught that the smart, safe thing to do is to spread your money out. Put it in dozens, maybe even hundreds of different companies. And the logic makes sense, If one of them goes bust, you don't lose everything. It's that classic saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And look, this isn't just some old folk wisdom. It actually has a fancy academic name, modern portfolio theory. It's packed with complicated math and Greek letters. It's taught in every single business school, and it's all there to prove that diversification is the best way to go. It's the official, celebrated, correct way to invest.
And then you've got Charlie Munger, the famous partner of Warren Buffett, a brilliant billionaire investor himself. He took a look at this whole academic edifice and, well, he had a slightly different take on it. A very blunt one. Twaddle. That's the word he used. I mean, not just wrong or I disagree. Nope. He called it twaddle. Complete and total nonsense. He basically believed this whole complicated theory was just a recipe for being average, not for building extraordinary wealth. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. You can really see the two camps here. On one side, you have modern portfolio theory, which is all about owning a little bit of everything, so you can get an average result. Munger's way is the total opposite. It's about finding just a few truly wonderful companies and putting your money there. It's a super simple idea, but it's built on real understanding, not some crazy formula. Yeah, Munger really didn't hold back. He felt like the whole academic approach was so disconnected from how business actually works in the real world that it was like a form of madness. He saw it as a system designed to make you average, which, as he said, any fifth grader could figure out how to do. Okay, so if diversification is twaddle, what's the alternative? What are we supposed to do? Well, Munger's answer is shockingly simple. It's powerful, but it all comes down to just one little number.
3. That's it. That's the number. Not 50, not 100, not 500. Munger was convinced that the real path to getting very, very rich boils down to just 3. Just let that one sink in for a second. He's basically saying that the greatest fortunes weren't made by people who owned a little bit of 50 different stocks. No way. They were built by someone finding a truly incredible business, think Coca-Cola, and just holding on for dear life. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your first reaction is probably, wait a minute, isn't that insanely risky? And this is Munger's killer point. He argues that real risk comes from not having a clue what you own. He believed it is way less risky to own 3 businesses that you understand inside and out than to own 50 big, famous companies that you barely know anything about.
All right, so the whole thing obviously hangs on one giant question. What in the world is a wonderful business? And it's not about what's hot right now or what's exciting. It's about a very specific list of things that last. See, Munger wasn't out there hunting for the next big thing. He was looking for businesses that were almost boring. They had to be protected from competitors by some huge advantage, what he famously called a moat. And most importantly, they had to be simple enough that he could actually honestly understand them. So simple that he could picture what they'd look like in 10, even 20 years. Let's use his own examples because they make this so clear. He felt he could pretty reliably predict the shaving business, like Gillette, or even the chewing gum business, for decades to come. Sure, the technology gets a little better, but the basic human need doesn't just vanish. But a company like Microsoft, he thought it was a great company, but he openly admitted he had absolutely no idea what its world would look like in 20 years. And that massive unpredictability, that was a risk he just wasn't willing to take. So when you really boil it all down, Munger's entire way of thinking rests on one single fundamental idea. And it's an idea that anyone can use, not just some investing genius. This is it. This is the whole secret sauce right here. It's not about having the highest IQ in the room. It's about being really, truly honest with yourself about what you don't know. It's about figuring out where your knowledge ends and then staying inside that circle and only making big bets when you know you have a real, predictable edge. And that's really the bedrock of making this whole thing work. The simplicity and predictability he was always looking for.
You almost always find those in companies that are just incredibly hard for anyone else to compete with. They've got a brand, a system, or a product that is just totally locked in. So, let's end on this question for you. Forget about stocks and Wall Street for a minute. Just think about the world around you. Using Munger's logic, what business, what product, what service can you confidently say you understand well enough to predict where it'll be in the world 20 years from now? Because finding the answer to that question, that's the real first step down a very, very different road to building wealth.